Chelsy to the Fireside Chat. I am glad you're here with us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody.
I asked you for a song that you just couldn't get out of your head right now, or something that you felt represented you. You chose Just Fine by Mary J. Blige. Why?
I chose that song because life can take you, many places. And the lyrics when she said, I like when I see what I'm looking at me walking past the mirror. I had a lot of insecurities growing up. A lot of it came from family. A lot of it came from, school, my skin color, the texture of my hair, things of that nature. So, and I'm at the point in my life where I'm just fine with myself, with what I've accomplished and my successes. I'm fine now. I'm okay.
I love that. How does it feel to be just fine? Like to have that realization?
It feels great because, there were points and times where I didn't know where I was going to end up, what the future would hold. And I still don't know what the future holds, but I think my future holds great things because of what I've accomplished in the past and the obstacles that I have overcome. So it feels like a big accomplishment within itself to even feel just fine.
I love that. I love that. Congratulations on your accomplishments. We'll get to some of those in just a little bit. But actually, let's get to it right now. What do you currently do for a living?
I am currently a mental health professional. It's another word for social worker, case manager at a mental health facility called Albany Care, located in Evanston. And I just want to give back. Mental health is something that I feel every human experiences at a certain point in time in life. And as a child, it was something that I struggled with a lot, to depression. So I just want to give back, specifically like in that field of mental health.
Was that something that you went to school for, received professional training for?
It is. I did go to school. My major when I first started college was psychology. And psychology, it was a lot of math is not my friend. And psychology, it requires a lot of math, a lot of statistics, things of that nature. So I switched it to social work because social work and psychology, it were kind of hand in hand, but I didn't escape the statistics. So I didn't want to make it overwhelming for myself. I wanted to set a goal that I knew that I was, going to accomplish. So I sat down, I talked to my advisor, and I told, I gave her and explained what I wanted to do. And she said, well, we have Northeastern Illinois University is where I attended. And they have a program that they offer. It's a non-traditional program, interdisciplinary studies. So I changed my major from social work to interdisciplinary studies, which kind of sped up the process of me graduating, because I was like 4 or 5 years in. So I had already had a lot of credits and things. She was like, it sounds like you want to do this. You could major in interdisciplinary studies. And I think that I graduated like 2 semesters earlier than what I was supposed to graduate if I had continued with social work.
So. Do you like what you do?
I do. I love it. This is actually my first position in the mental health field. So for it to be my first position in the mental health field, I love it. I do.
For those of us who have never been to Evanston, what is it like? You were actually born in Evanston, so can you talk about it?
It's a very small town. I would say it's a small college town. We have a downtown, different things, but it's very small.
Can you talk a little bit about your community there in Evanston? Your community growing up and maybe your community now?
Well, growing up, when I grew up in Evanston, and I'm actually staying on the street now that I grew up in, so it's kind of, I wouldn't say weird, but it was the block that I grew up on Jackson Avenue. It's where my grandmother, she had the only white house on the block, and I really don't know exactly how long she was in it, but I know like I was born into that house. And I actually stay across the street from the house, and it's very different from when I was growing up. The block was a little bit more diverse. Everybody on the block knew each other, and now it's not as diverse. We don't really communicate, as neighbors really as much as I was used to growing up. But it's a good community. They have it's a lot of resources, especially for single families, low income families, a very good education system, which is really one of the main reasons why I pushed so hard to get back to Evanston before my son started kindergarten, which main reason was the education system.
Well, you brought up your son, so let's go ahead and talk about him. Elijah and Desire. Tell us about your son and daughter.
Well, Elijah and Desire, Elijah is 5 and Desire is 4. I really don't know where I would be, without them. It's my mindset is really different now that I'm a parent. And like everything that I do, I think about how will it impact them? Will it be beneficial to them? Will it be non-beneficial to them? Elijah's in kindergarten. He just started this year, and he was having a really, 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 really rough transition into kindergarten. He's better now, day by day. And Desire, she's in preschool. She'll be in kindergarten this coming August next year, 2023. And they are just amazing little humans.
What is something that you try to instill in both of them?
Confidence. That's something that I didn't have growing up. And now I'm to the point where I believe that you can do anything you want to do if you apply yourself. You just have to believe in yourself. And for so many years, for so long, I was looking for validation from, other people like my mom, my dad, my auntie. So yeah, I just try to instill confidence in them and just let them know that, you can, and don't be afraid to ask for help. You need help. Everybody needs help.
What were some of the challenges you have faced in raising Elijah and Desire?
I think one of the big challenges was the lack of parenting that I received growing up. I didn't want to do that to my children, but I didn't know how, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to not give them the same lack of parenting that I did or did not receive. So that was one of the challenges. And it's still a challenge, because I'm learning day by day. Like there's no guide on how to be a parent. But I just try to do the best I can. It's just what my parents lacked in raising me, I try to make up.
I'm a parent as well, so I definitely know I'm making it up as I go along. I do want to ask because when I heard your story, it was a little bit different how we received other stories. You wrote in and told us about certain things that were going on in your life, and you were in a really good place. But I imagine there were different mindsets in your life years ago compared to now. It was important for you to share your story with us. Why was that so important? Can you take us back to some of those mindsets in 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
I ended up in DCFS when I was 12 years old. So that's trauma. That's a lot of trauma. And prior to me being a ward, my brother had passed. He was 2 weeks. And it's just like I never had any time to grieve. And I'm the oldest of 10. So it's like I've always been like responsible, I guess. I've always had a lot of responsibility. So like I said before, I never knew what the future would hold, and I struggled with depression. And sometimes it would get to the point where I didn't want to continue. Like, life gets hard, especially when you don't have a support system. And I never thought I would make it. I would have made it this far. I knew that I wanted to be successful, and I wanted to accomplish goals, but I didn't see it in me to do 5 years ago.
But look at you now.
Yes.
Oldest of 10 kids. So that means you were a natural born leader. You had to be a natural born leader, right?
Yes, I feel that way, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you feel your responsibilities are to your community? I know you said you just want to give back, and that's one of the reasons why you chose mental health as a field. But what do you feel are your responsibilities to the community?
Prior to me ended up in DCFS, we were in a lot of shelters growing up. I was in a lot of shelters with my mother growing up, and with my mother and my stepfather. And I would get exposed to certain situations where how homeless people are treated. And I still think it's a lot of, it shouldn't be this amount of homeless people around the world. And I think that is I feel like that is one of my responsibilities. That is something that I also want to do in that field of giving back, giving people a facility who need a home, who need somewhere to lay their head, who needs a hot meal, shower, to feel safe, I think that is one of my big responsibilities in my community. That's something that I'm looking forward to doing.
Thank you for sharing that you experienced homelessness. Can you describe, if you don't mind, can you describe what that feeling is like?
Well, I've experienced homelessness 2 times in my life. When I was in shelters with my mother, and then also when I was in DCFS, I got emancipated and I lost my apartment. So I think that was more of a traumatic time for me because at that time I didn't have, anywhere to go. And then I had my two kids, and I'm grateful for my stepfather because he was at the time in Texas. And I was the oldest again. So it was a lot of things that I was exposed to, and how I watched my mom struggle, us hopping from shelter to shelter growing up. I didn't want to take my kids through that trauma. So my stepdad, he said that, bring them down here with me. I'll look after them. And that's what I did. And I used, I still felt like at that time, I felt like a bad mother. I felt like the world was ending because I didn't have my kids and I didn't have anywhere to stay, but I was still in school and I was still working. So that's what kind of gave me a little bit of hope, that I'll be okay. Hopefully one day. That was my thought process. But it was another very traumatic time. But I thought I had made the best decision for my kids because I knew how much trauma that had on me and my siblings, and I just didn't want to take them through that.
Thank you for sharing that. I am curious, when things seemed pretty bleak and there were a lot of challenges, you didn't have your kids, you were living in the homeless shelter. What motivated you to continue going to school and continue working?
All I could think about was my kids. And then again, backtracking to my mother and the opportunities that I saw her pass up. So, I wanted to see how it looked if I kept going. And I just knew if I didn't continue to go to school, then really where would I be, so I just kept going. I prayed a lot, like that was one of my coping skills. I prayed a lot. But I just knew, and I think at that point, I think I had already completed, like, I want to say a year and a half, 2 years of college. So then in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, that's a lot of time wasted and I could have been doing something else. So like, I just kept going. It was hard, but I already knew what would happen if I did give up. So I would just wanted to see the outcome if I did give up.
Chelsy, I know we have some people listening right now who have either experienced homelessness in the past, or they have some loved ones who are experiencing that right now. What do you believe were factors, other than your stepdad, what do you believe were factors that helped you transition out of experiencing homelessness?
I've shared my story to a numerous amount of people, and as the years go by, I continue to accomplish things. So I would probably run into somebody, and just share what I was going through, things of that nature, and they would like give me an encouraging word. And I would also run into people and listen to their stories and think, okay, somebody's always going through something worse than you. So that was another important factor. At that time of experiencing homelessness, although I was homeless, I didn't have my apartment, but I thought of it, I still had somewhere warm to sleep. I still had 3 meals. I was still able to shower. I was grateful for the things that I still had.
How did you first hear about UpTogether? And have you received any funds from UpTogether?
I have not. I know in the past, like I was looking for platforms to share my story. And I got an email. I think that's when the email from UpTogether came, and it was giving me the opportunity to share my story. So that's when I decided to, just share my story. And here we are.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you did. I love the fact that you're supporting what our approach is and what UpTogether is all about. Not having received any funds, but you can get behind what you've heard about us. If you did receive funds, what decisions would that free you up to make in your life as it is right now?
I would put it towards opening a facility for the homeless. That's one of my passions. That's something that I really want to do, give back. And that's one way that I want to give back. And I feel like if I were given the opportunity, that's what I would want to do.
Chelsy, I'm curious, what are some stereotypes that you feel get placed on our communities unfairly?
Especially like minorities, limiting their income, to receive government assistance. I think that's one of the stereotypes that gets placed unfairly. Another stereotype I think that's placed unfairly is Black fathers being absent.
I know you mentioned depression. What do you believe is a mental health issue that is harming our communities most?
The lack of resources, probably for minorities, for mental health, because everybody experiences mental health. And I think if everybody knew, if there were more resources and everybody knew there were more resources, it would make a difference.
What is it going to take for people to know that there are resources available, people to know that it is something that should be valued a lot more?
Instead of waiting for, individuals who are experiencing mental health to look for the resources, offer them. And in certain fields where mental health is higher.
I am curious, how do you tell your friends, your family members, your community about UpTogether? If someone asks, how do you tell them? What are you actually saying?
I looked at it as a platform to just share my story and gain more knowledge.
I'm glad you decided to share your story. We are blessed to have you share your story and be our guest on the Fireside Chat today.
Thank you so much.